One of the questions that I ask just about all of the worship leaders that I interviewed for these videos is, what do you wish you would have known as a new worship leader that you didn't know then, that you do know now, something you learned over time that's pretty important? What would you tell your younger self, if you will? And there were lots of great answers, and you'll see many of those as we continue on in these videos. But one of my favorites was a dialogue that my friend John Chevalier and I had. He talked about not trying to be somebody else. Take a look.
I think early on, I got up. I wasn't John up in front of the congregation. I was the worship leader up in front of the congregation. I was the job. I wasn't the person. And it wasn't like those things were here, okay? But it was more of a mental shift and a mental mindset from me of who I was. And I have to tell you, when I started just being who I am, it became, the burden was just lifted.
Well, it's easy for those things to become here. Mm-hmm. I've seen worship leaders who, when they go from here up onto the platform, it's a total different person.
Yeah.
We're not, not even close.
Oh, yes.
And to me, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
My church, people know this is just the doofus Tom. And so, and that's not, and I'm not saying I'm being stupid or anything, but I'm being real. They know that.
Right.
I've seen worship leaders who are up in front of people who come across like their life is perfectly, together all the time.
Right.
And as a person in a congregation, I'm sorry, but I can't relate to that. Right. That is not where I live.
Right.
And if I'm honest up in front of people and let them know, look, I struggle just like you do, I'm a lot more willing to follow that person.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the persona that you put forth. And I think all leadership, if we could all, from everybody who gets up in front and does anything, if they just be themselves and just be real and just relate to people, we would be a whole lot better off. When I was early in my worship leading days, I wouldn't have been able to do things like, I remember we started this one song, that old song, Celebrate Jesus. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. And for some reason, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're all supposed to start together, and the bass player missed the cue. So the piano player was kind of a little behind because he's trying to find a bass player. The drummer was like on Mars or something. And they tried, bless their little hearts, they tried to pull it together, and I wasn't playing guitar for that song. And I just turned around, I looked at him, and I said, stop. Just stop. And it was silent in the worship center until I turned around and I was laughing and I was smiling. And I just went up to the microphone and I said, well, that was a train wreck. So we just want to, and I was laughing and they laughed too. And it was like it took the tension totally out of the room. I think in my early days I would have stressed out or tried to push through that moment. Sure. But it was like, no, let's shake the Etch-a-Sketch and start over. So that's what I mean by just being, just being yourself and be who you are. And if you make a mistake, you just, get up and do it again.
I think John's right. Far too many worship leaders that are just starting out are way too uptight about their own ability, their performance, whatever. It's really not that big of a deal. Oh, don't misunderstand. It is a big deal because we are worshiping Almighty God. From that perspective, it's a really big deal. But your individual performance is really not as big of a deal as we make it out to be. Just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to emulate other people all the time. Just be who God created you to be and allow Him to work through you. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be things that go wrong. Totally understand that. Don't stress it. It's okay.
Brought to you by MyWorshipLeadingCoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.